Okay, so we are now recording. Let me just shift this aside. All right, so right now you can see that I've added some details to my character. I've added some pockets and also side pockets on her jumpsuit. Okay, so let's say I want to add some detail like what I did over here, the zipper. How do I add zippers to this? And also, let's start with something simpler first, like adding laces right to this area here. Okay, so for laces, we can first create a single lace and then try to put it so that it is lined on the surface of this boot itself. So normally I will create a cylinder. Okay, that will be the basis for the string itself. So for the cylinder, I do not want it to have so many subdivisions, because later when I subdivide it, right, it's going to be quite smooth anyway. And for the height subdivisions, I'm going to give it maybe about 6. All right, and then the diameter, which is the radius, I'm just going to make it small. So this will be like a single strand here. I'm going to hold down Control so that I can have a narrower lace. So if I press number 3, it will become like a strip like that. So next, I want it to follow onto the surface of this boot itself. So I'm going to create a curve. Okay, and okay, let's show you how the curve deform works first. I think I showed you guys this before when you are doing your 3DM. But first, let's open up the menu. So you must go first to the Curve Surfaces tab, or under Create Curve Tools. So I'm going to use the EP Curve tool, and I'm just going to draw a simple curve first. Right, so the curve is going to be on the surface here, and then press Enter to finish. Then we're going to use the, let's see, where is the Deform tool? I think it is the, if I can remember correctly, it's not the shrink wrap. It's a curve warp. All right, curve warp. Yeah. So this is the tool that should be used. All right. So first select the mesh, then shift select the curve, then deform, and then do the curve warp. And you can see that the mesh, right, will straight away jump to the curve position. Now, if you select the curve, okay, which is over here, this is curve number 3. And if you move it around, it should follow, that tube should follow where it's supposed to be. But right now, here comes the tricky part. Now, where do you want, I want the curve, right, to really stick onto the surface here. All right, so it's also a bit hard for me to see the curve. So I'm going to try to use X-ray under the shading, X-ray, so I can see the curve itself. And if you can, you try to carefully select the curve. Okay, right now we can't really select the curve because, right, the curve is inside this mesh itself. So I'm going to temporarily hide the mesh by pressing H and select the curve. And then now, when right mouse click on it, I can select the control vertex. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the control vertex so that it's on the surface of this boot itself. So we're going to activate something now. Let me go back to object mode first. We're going to make this surface the creating surface, or the live surface. So with the boot selected, I'm going to click on the magnet here. So now the boot will become a live surface. So what this means is that when I snap right to the surface, the control point to the surface, right, it's going to stick to the surface quite well. So how do you do that? First, you go to select the curve, right mouse click and choose control vertex. And you can select one of the control vertex, and then you're holding down to just click and see, as long as you're in move mode, all right, it's going to slide onto the surface. Now you'll notice that it doesn't really stick to the surface because this one is actually a subdivided surface. So the original surface, right, is actually here. So it's actually really sticking onto the surface. So as I move the curves, you can see that all of them, right, are now moving to the surface in the move tool. Okay, so we will end up with a messy knot like that. So right now I'm trying to fix the knot problem. Okay, let's try to move it around so that it follows the surface. So I have to be very careful. Just move it, and right now it's literally sliding on the surface of the boot because we have this live surface that is going on here. So right now, just stretch it out first. Okay, later when I unhide and see, you can see the lace or the detail, right, very clearly. Alright, so right now I have the curve, you can see conforming onto the surface of the boot. So I'm going to unhide the cylinder, which is Shift H, and I'm going to turn off the X-ray mode. And you can see that right now you can see it conforms beautifully onto the surface. So you can go and duplicate several instances of this. Okay, of course you have to build more of these, right, if you want it to stick to it. Now if you find this one is too troublesome, of course you can always create a lower resolution version of this curve and then just manually move segment by segment until it starts to form here. Okay, but I'm going to try to do a single cross around here first. So right now this lace is a bit, or rather this shoelace is a bit too long. I'm going to hide it again. So press H to hide it, then select the curve. Then I'm just going to position the points until it is right about here. Alright, and I'm going to turn on my wireframe, or rather X-ray view again. Makes it easier for me to see the points here. So right now I'm just dragging and moving the points so that they form the shape that I want. Okay, so you can see one of the laces is being formed. Okay, actually, now that I think of it, right, I think my curve, I have too many segments already. I should create a curve, right, that has less segments so that it's easier to manipulate. Okay, the good thing about this is that because the cylinder is being deformed, and if I change my mind on the diameter of the cylinder, which I'm going to unhide now, okay, we can see some issue here. I'm going to hide this. Okay, one of the vertex is probably flipped, so I'm just going to move it around and then see whether it fixes it. Okay, so sometimes maybe I try deleting this, see what happens. I delete the last vertex point and then see whether that will fix it. Yes, it does. Okay, so the cylinder, let's say I find that this lace is too thick. I can still go to the cylinder under the channel box and reduce the width. Okay, so there is one cylinder or one deformation that is done. So of course, if you want to create more, you have to draw the curves again and recreate another lace. So the thing is, you can create the curve directly onto this surface. So I'm going to show you. You can go to EP curve. So I'm going to draw another curve, let's say from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then like that. So you can see that the curve, right, actually conforms onto the surface of this boot. Then I'm going to recreate another cylinder. Okay, so this is the same cylinder, but I'm going to recreate it. So I'm going to clone it, so I'll have a second cylinder, but I will, okay, but this cylinder, right, is permanently fixed. It is not being affected by the, what do you call that, the other curve. So maybe this one might not be a, okay, let me just try this first. Let me hide the original one and see whether the clone, right? Yeah, the clone is not being affected by this curve. But unfortunately, this one is already deformed by this curve, so I'm going to delete this. I have to go and create another cylinder. Okay, so let's see what is the size of this cylinder here. Okay, 0.032, okay. Create a new cylinder, 0.03 in diameter, and we only have 6 sides, and sorry, 6 sides, yeah, correct, height, 6 subdivisions. Okay, so this is fine. Then the height, maybe I want to reduce it a little bit. So same thing, select the cylinder, shift select the curve, then deform, then use the curve warp. If you press number 3, and you can see that this curve now is sticking there. So let's take a look at it in shaded mode. Alright, so you can see that it conforms nicely. Now, when you want to work normally again, remember to uncheck this magnet, so that otherwise, right, whatever you create, right, will always want to stick onto this surface. Alright, so now at this stage, right, you can continue to select your cylinders, but remember your cylinder is being deformed by this curve. Okay, you can move the control points to deform the shape to the shape that you want. Alright, so I'll keep this as part 1, otherwise, right, the video will be too long. So I think the other video, right, I'll show you how I created this. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this video just for the deformation.